Well, good Saturday morning to everybody. Hope you're doing well. A few days away from Christmas. Um, we are reading through Hebrews, chapters 1 through 6. And I can't help but reflect on what's been happening in the last little while in the world as people have been contending for the resurrection of a little girl who a little girl of some of the worship leaders in Bethel, Olive, who just stopped breathing in the middle of the night. And these parents stood in faith and called upon others to pray with them for the resurrection of the little girl. And they stood there in faith, and their pastors gathered around them and supported them in their faith, and their church their church community rallied and stood with them in their faith. And the call went out around the world, and the Christian world, much of the Christian world, stood with them in their faith, believing, calling upon the Lord, and believing for the resurrection of this little girl. And at the same time, there were those in the church that rose up in opposition and criticism, and sometimes hatred, and saying that these people were going to bring dishonor to God, and that they were going to bring shame, and they're just going to cause the world to question whether God exists or not. And it was such a wall of hatred, such a ugly thing that was rising up in the face of this beautiful, united call out to God. And I read in Hebrews this morning this beautiful thing of Scripture, talking about all these promises that God has given us, all these things that He has done for us, the promises that has been planted in us, the power that has been planted in us. And the writer says that these things are activated by our faith. These things are activated by our faith. There is nothing to our Christian walk if it's not activated by faith, because faith it has an element of trust to it, where we say, Dad, I believe you. I believe your promises. I believe those promises are for me, and I believe that I have received them. And these parents stood and said, Jesus Christ is the resurrection. We look to what He did and what He promised, and He commanded us to raise the dead. And we stand in faith, believing. Now, our problem is that we're often thinking in one dimension, and we don't understand that to live is Christ and to die is gain. There is no fear in death at all, and we're not limited to this world. We're not limited to this existence. That we are citizens of the kingdom, and we're multidimensional, and our Father uses all things for our good. And He took the faith of these parents. Guys, He took the faith. He took the faith of these parents and the pastors who rallied around them, and a church community that rallied around them, and He used it to awaken people. He used it to awaken people from their safe faith to a risky faith. He awakened people who had fallen asleep, and He breathed life into them through this. And all around the world, people have been waking up and realizing that they haven't been walking in the faith that they've been called to. That they look at these parents and they say, that's what we're supposed to be. And I read Hebrews, and I say, Lord, and it causes us to examine our faith, and where am I with this? Where am I with my faith? Where am I? And I look in our community, those that we've been standing with and contending with, who stand and say, no, I am healed. I think of Joe, stands there and says, I am healed of this brain cancer. I think of Peter, who says, no, I am healed of this cancer that the doctors say is gonna kill me. I stand. I am healed. And we as a church, we don't haphazardly, we don't half-heartedly stand with them. We fight with them. We believe. We call out. And I honestly believe that in the process, seeds are planted. People are encouraged. And people look and say, if the church fights for them that way, then the church will fight for me that way. And there's a rallying cry that happens, and we see this explosion of faith that is taking place. And the writer of Hebrews says that it is that faith. It is that faith that activates all these promises. It is that faith that activates these things. And all around the world right now, Olive was not resurrected. And it goes into the mystery column. And nobody should be attempting to explain that. But we look at what Father has done with this. We look at the results of this. We look at this and we say, wow. He has resurrected. He has resurrected children. He has resurrected. There's resurrection taking place all over the world as people come back to where they're supposed to be, as people come back into that place of power and authority, if people come back into that walk, and the people come back in the expectations of the goodness of our God. They come back into that place. Man. There is no defeat in this, because to live is Christ and to die is gain. There is no defeat. There's no defeat in any of this. We are not people of defeat. We can't lose. We can't lose, people. We can't lose. So let's stand together. Let's allow this to cause us to fight even more for the people who need us to fight with them. You guys be blessed today. Be encouraged. And may this too cause an awakening. God bless.